with that, I guess we'll open the up for Dr. Whitford here.
Well,
Yes,
I think
sir.
Fred's going to show you why you shouldn't have kept spraying.
I hope none of these. I hope none of these pictures are mine either.
If you do see so let me ask you this, Dennis or Valerie, can you see the picture? Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, I can.
All right, very good. Well, I tell you, if you're a grower and you've listened to these last two talks, Dennis, I'm telling you, I learned a lot on sulfur. I mean, I knew some, but I think Jim's presentation says, maybe I need to look at that. And I think there was 2, 3 key points out of Dan's presentation about this weather. Science doesn't always have the answer, but he's using experience along with yours. So I hope that they got some value out of it, because they're not going to get any value out of this talk. But so this unfortunately is one of my more popular talks that I've done around the country. And the reason is I'm asked to always come in when somebody is killed. The last one was in Alabama, where a clevis broke, hit the guy in the arm and took his arm off. And so they had to sew. I mean, it's amazing what doctors can do. So this is basically something that specifically we have a problem appreciating the dangers. Okay, and I'm going to tell you I haven't done everything right. I'm going to tell you that I've had things break on me as well. But the more I do this and the more I practice what I preach, then I think there's some things that we can do to make this safer. If I was in the group and I ask you, how many of you have experienced something breaking when you're trying to pull something apart? It is amazing. Typically, it's about 50 to 80% of people in the room have experienced it. The good news, except for that person, is just in every group, there's always one a story of where the person didn't come back home, or the person got hit in the head and is never going to be right again, folks. So, again, we don't have that luxury here because we're not all together to ask the question. So what I want to do is share with you things that I've learned. And, if we're supposed to get 8 inches of rain here this weekend, and you guys are going to be getting around 6 down in your way, Dennis, then, we've all been there. They'll say, oh, you can do it. Go ahead. It ain't bad. Well, sometimes it is bad, but we typically don't find out until we get there. Now, folks, these accidents happen, and I wish I could say that we can prevent them all. We probably can't, but we can make an effort. You can see this truck right there, and then you can see this car, this van, starting to back up, and you're wondering, what's he doing? Well, there's a train coming. And I love the truck. It keeps going, saying, I got my grain delivered. There ain't no point stopping. He just keeps going. Again, these are, split second. If he could have got in and out a second or two earlier, if he just would have stopped to say hello to somebody, then that accident would not have occurred. And that's what happens with these chains and stuff that breaks. It is a split second. Now, some of us do some pretty stupid things. So as most of you know, I am a redneck from Louisiana. So when I look at my fellow brothers from the South here, this should be an Olympic sport. I'm thinking about, how do you pull a limb down? Listen to that one guy take off. I don't know. That's about a 10. Dennis, I'm thinking, we're burning more rubber off that tire than that whole, the tires are the only value. Now, the chain will break. Nothing bad's going to happen, so I won't belabor the point. But sometimes we do stupid things, and we know it, and we do it anyhow. And that includes me. So, folks, you would be surprised the amount of tension on this pulling something. And it's hard to appreciate. I had a chance to go to Indianapolis a number of years back, where we put these chains and other things in these devices, and they could measure the amount of stress. And it was just incredible how much tension that we're putting on here. Every time we pull something, we should stop and do a little thinking first. Because the last thing we want, the last thing we want is for this to happen, to come in through. And I'm only going to show you part of it because, I mean, a lot of you play in the mud and you love playing in the mud. You have better vehicles in the mud than my 2001 Ford Ranger. But what I want you to see is when bad things happen and it breaks and hits in the wrong spot, look at that windshield there, keep on the driver's side. I mean, he just took that whole windshield out, and we don't need to see that. And so that guy was just plastered by that chain. So there's a whole lot more to than just hooking and pulling, which is what we typically think of is hooking and pulling. And so in this particular example, which is in that publication that I first showed you at the beginning, the guy needed help, so he came down there to help his buddy, pulled and basically broke out the windshield. All right. Now, if you're lucky, nothing's going to happen except damage property. If you're unlucky, you're going to be hit. So what we're going to do is to divide this talk up. Anytime you have questions, you just put them in the chat, and Valerie maybe or I can answer them the best that I can, because some of this is science, but I think as Dennis was talking about, a lot of what we do is experience-based as well, and we try to take the science and the experience and try to put them together. So tow, stuck, danger, clear. So the tow zone is basically you're going to hook up in that area, and you're going to hook up to pull this truck. As you can see, this sucker is buried to the frame. And most of you know that the truck that is, or tractor that is going to be used to pull this out has got to be at least as big as what you're pulling out, or this one here has to be able, the one that's stuck, has to be able to help you. Because there are times you're going to say, I can't do this. Now, you're not going to admit that till you've broken all your chains, but that truck...
He is nudging them.
Oh, yeah, it's nudging them. All right?
That can't be good.
Okay, that's probably an IU graduate. That can't be good. No, that is not good, and because it was never going to happen. Sometimes you're underweight to pull something out. My best example is not with machines, but with people. And if you've ever watched the Olympics where you have those guys that are lifting those big balls of rock, and they have to put them on the pedestals, and you'll say, oh, that guy can't win. He's 5'3" and he weighs 450 pounds. Well, you look at the other guy, he's 6'4", 300 pounds. Well, see who wins those. And it's usually the shorter, bigger guy that wins because they have the bulk to lift bulk, to move bulk. And so if you notice when you're working through a pull and you look at any of the people that you know, and if we've got any folks here, sometimes we have them that work for towing companies, they are always trying to tow up. Because if I can tow you up above the hole, then I have a better opportunity of getting you out. In other words, if I'm in the ground and I'm trying to pull straight, that ground's not going to give. Whatever you're pulling is going to give. So the tow zone, right there for that first bullet, am I big enough to pull something out? And if you're not, I don't care how hard you work, it ain't going to happen. Or you're going to be taking a chance that something bad is going to happen. The second one that we have here is called the stuck zone. And so you're going to see, I need to know roughly the weight. What is it that I'm pulling out? And I've got different numbers on this one, and I may plus or minus, I don't care. let's say that I have roughly 8,000 pounds that I'm pulling out here. That's 8,000 pounds, or it could be 40,000 for a tractor, or whatever the case may be. But all of you know that there's more to it when you're stuck. And I think this is the one I better turn my sound down, off, because they say some kind of bad words in here, and I already got in trouble once for it. So here these boys are, and they're saying, yeah, I bet you can't drive through that. Nah, I bet I can. So the challenge is made. I don't know about you, if you're going to play in the mud, you need to drive through the mud pretty quickly. Driving slow doesn't going to help you much. Good job. And as this sinks a little bit, I got skater board dude right there telling him to turn the wheels. He doesn't even know what the heck he's doing, but he's who you're listening to advice to. So he does what we all do. We go grab the nearest chain, the strap or whatever. Now, what I want you to notice is how lucky this guy is. Watch when he gets up under, which is hard because he doesn't have anywhere to hook up at. He's going to try to hook it up close to the bumper. And if you remember the old, what's those tires? It's lucky that he is basically grounded down and can't get out. We'd have run over him. And if you remember in the old days, the bumpers were real bumpers. It wasn't plastic. But he's going to hook it up. And he is pulling more than just that vehicle, right? There's also suction that we'll see in a minute. What happened here? Let's see if I can get to it. We're having issues here. Here we go. And so, typical kind of thing, guys standing around looking, gals looking. Inside of the vehicle is his wife or girlfriend. Luck was going to be on their side on this day. So they're going to use a strap. They're going to pull it. And what I want you to notice, and we'll come back to that later, on the truck that's pulling, notice that strap where it's at, and it's going to be pulling on that bumper. And straps obviously can be cut. But here we go. He pulls, he's dragging. You're thinking, okay, all I got to do is jerk on this one time, and we can take her home. Well, he did. It cut. It broke, and you can see the hole in the back of the vehicle. And the guy's a little bit shaky taking the video, and you can see it went in. And what I want you to notice is where it ends up at. It goes through the truck, ends up right there on the dashboard, if you can see it, between the woman and the man. Folks, that was nothing but sheer luck that one of them was not hurt or hit or killed, which is kind of funny in this one. They always say women are smarter. Well, it's obvious she is, because she says, I ain't staying here. So she left him to get that vehicle out. What we don't account for, let's just say that truck and chemical, all that weight 8,000 pounds, is how deep is it buried? And all of you know that if you've ever walked through mud that's got any depth to it, you can walk out of your boots as that suction grabs you. So I'll keep the sound off on this one as well. I don't know how he got out there, but he is out there and he can't get out. It's suction. Suction is holding him in. So they're going to try a couple of different things here. And he thinks, yeah, bring it down here. I'll just grab that sucker and you just pull me out. This is really, first of all, I don't know how he got in there again, but this just shows you suction and the strength that, no, you're going to pull your arms out first. Now, this is my favorite one. Don't do this here in the States because it's probably not OSHA approved, but you know what he's thinking. Oh, please be deeper than my legs as he's pulling me out. Now, everything's going to be funny here as they drag him out of this mud. And so the bottom line is, I'm trying to make my point. that it's the weight plus the suction. And so in the publication that we're going to make available, if you want it, you can send Valerie an email. Or I guess you could do the chat. Tell Valerie you want the Getting Stuck publication, and she can send me your name and you give me your address, and I will mail it to you or tell you where it's at online if you want it. But right in the middle, this comes from RecMaster, and this talks about, these are people that train the people who are commercial, who pull people out for a living. And you can see here that if you're at tire depth, which is what this picture is trying to show, you want to add 75% more to the vehicle's weight. So if that thing was 8,000 pounds, I can't do the math in my head, 3/4 of that, it's going to be what, 14,000 or whatever. If it's buried to body, to wheel depth, you double it up. And that's what we're showing you here. And they're telling the guys that are pulling, gals, if it's buried to body depth, you add 150%. So from my experience, at least, I'm just going to tell you, whatever you're hauling out, you just double up in weight. And that's going to tell you the amount of force that your equipment and your chains or straps are going to have to fight. Now, one of the easiest things on paper is to say, to dig around the tires, get a shovel to try to break that suction. And for some equipment, you can't. Most people don't. They want to grab everything they got. If they do this, it's typically at the very end, and they don't have any more chains because they've broken them all. All right, so toe, am I big enough to get the job done? What is it that I'm pulling out? What is a rough weight? And then I'm going to double it if it's in, let's say in this case, mud. So the danger zone then is where things are going to happen. I'm going to hook up and I'm going to pull with equipment. So again, this was one I started to talk about a while ago, which is what they called her the angel of heaven. This is the case where a guy called in for some help. He got stuck. The guy came and helped him. The chain broke, and it actually hit him in around the heart area, and he is now bleeding. Actually, he's bleeding to death. And so the guy is there, and you'd ask, well, what would you do? Well, most people will tell you, well, you need to stop the bleeding. Okay, well, sure. So lucky the guy was able to get a jacket and just cram it in there, the guy that was hurt. The guy went to call 911 for help, but there was no signal there. As you guys know, Dennis, in your area, sometimes the signals are not very good around those areas. And so he had to run to the top of the hill to call 911. And luckily for him, that one of the hospital people were listening and realized that it was her day off and they were very close to her. And she rushed down there to help him. They air evacuated him and he survived. But that was luck. So, am I big enough? What am I trying to, how much weight am I trying to pull? Then we're going to rely on different things to be able to pull them. So the first is the chains. Okay, it broke. Folks, if I've got two trucks pulling on one chain, what do you expect is going to happen? I just don't, again, we're just looking for problems when that happens. Most of you know that your grades of the chain and the diameters have weights to them, and this is a different talk for that. But if you're going to use the chain that's been in your truck or your grandpa's log chain, then you need to know roughly what that's about. Most of us don't do that. And there's a huge difference. So, you can see if that truck I was pulling was 8,000 I'm going to double it for mud, 16,000 pounds. I'm looking at a grade 70 at these smaller diameters, or as my diameters get bigger, I can use different grades. But this is why chains break and bend. I remember this guy here. I said, "What's that for?" He said, "What do you think it's for?" I said, "You anticipating getting stuck?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "Yeah, this has been a good old chain." And so I looked at the chain. It's a grade 30. The hook is a grade 30. You wouldn't hook up a bad dog to this. It's a grade 30 chain. But he's been lucky. It's always worked for him, and it stays there. Again, that's where we're really pushing the envelope. Now, but that sure is better than this. So as I do talks and I go around the country, or especially the state, I have my camera and I walk around in the parking lots and I'm seeing what's in the back of their trucks. I've got hundreds of slides, which are pretty cool. But so, I'm going to ask you, can you imagine trying to pull something with this? And you're saying this, well, it's not even one chain. I've got multiple chains. The chains have been stretched. This is worthless here. I mean, this is just junk that you're trying to save some dollars by not having a good chain or calling a wrecking company. I mean, this guy here, he's got bolts on it. And I could go through all day looking at this one. This is one of my favorites. And I actually wished I had this one. It's be a good show and tell. But you know what he did? He was just a little bit short. So if he put that bolt in between it, it would give him that extra length to make the hook up. Again, when you are risking your life on garbage like that, and I'm not criticizing, I'm saying we've all done that. Man, surely we can be smarter. Now, the key with chains, before I forget, is not only to have a chain that can take it, but is not to jerk on the chains. These chains are not meant to jerk on. But I can tell you, every time we pulled with the chain, you back up and you hammer it home. That's how things break. Cables, same thing. A cable is nothing but a coat hanger. It's just better wire that's twisted around in different patterns. Now, the key thing here, if you've got any cables, and I'm going to show you this one here, and I've always called that a horse collar, and it's probably a poor name for it, but I'm going to show you one here. The real name is a thimble. And if you've got cables that you're using for extracting equipment, you want to have this piece, this $5 piece here. And the reason is, just like a coat hanger, if you bend a wire, it doesn't bend back. So this piece right here allows you to evenly space all of that pressure. And what's taking the pressure is this right here, the thimble, or in my world, horse collar. That's critically important with cables, because you're going to be adding a lot of, in this case here, a lot of stress on that cable. Same thing, don't jerk, get you a thimble. And a lot of us use straps to make things work. And I have to tell you, a lot of this stuff we don't know, we just learned it. I didn't realize when they said a tow rope, I always thought that these were all meant to tow. And tow would include pulling out. Man, was I wrong. If you have anything like this that has the hooks already in place, and it looks like that, those are tow ropes and straps, and they're roughly worth about 3,000, 2,000 pounds of pulling. These are not meant for extraction. They can't take the stress. And you can see here what I'm trying to make that distinction. This is a recovery strap. That's the key word. And this is a tow strap. And a tow strap is meant to pull something on the road. Let's say your vehicle needs to be towed in. A recovery strap is going to give you something like, In this case, you can see it's 9,000 pounds on this particular one. And you can look here at this one, and it's 3,300 pounds. All right. So the difference in terminology here is important. And so a toe strap, this is what it's meant to do. Okay, that's it. And there's no stress on that. That is nothing more than two vehicles rolling, and you're just trying to, and you're trying to keep it tight as you're pulling it. You don't want it to be going back and forth. Now, a recovery rope and strap, they're also called jerk straps. They will come without the ends being something on it. I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But these are meant to pull. Now, they have different, this one is 15,000 pounds. This one is 35,000 pounds. And this one is 110,000 pounds for the guys that are pulling out semis and other kinds of things. Now, these jerk straps that we're talking about here, if you've ever done it, we've actually measured at one of the farms where they actually stretch. These stretch, the toes do not stretch. So you want their recovery, it's going to stretch. And at some point, like a rubber band, you can't do anything. If you have the time, let that sit for just a few minutes. And what you will have is what's stuck is going to be pulled toward what it is that's pulling it out. And I've worked with a long time ago some folks that were out west in the mines, and that's what they did. When they were out there, they would put these on. They didn't jerk on them because we tear up stuff, but they would just stretch it as far as they go, and they would wait until they pulled out this heavy equipment that they used in the mines. All right, so they have a rating, and what I want to talk about, one of the key parts where people are killed, seriously hurt, or put in a nursing home is this use of clevis. And Dennis, I can see you there on the screen. We've got lots of clevises, right? Yep, unmute yourself. And
yes, we do.
And those clevises, there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, they serve 1,000 different purposes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what in your mind, what's the weakness of this?
Probably the pin.
The pin. Because if I can pull this thing apart, I can send it flying, right?
Yep.
And so when we're looking under these extreme stresses, Dennis, these are the worst things that we can actually use when we're trying to pull people out. Because lots of times these pins can be popped out and these things actually separated like that. And this was what happened to the guy in Alabama when it flew across. One of my ag co-ops down there flew across, hit him in the hand, hit him in the arm, and took part of it off that they had to re-sew it. These are flying missiles. Instead, I would like for you to use a shackle when you're pulling people. I'm not asking you to spend a lot of money here, but I want a shackle. And Dennis, I guess the difference in our world here would be I can get that one to screw in, and you think it would be stronger.
Yes.
And so I was given a talk once here in the state, and there was a farmer in there that also did work with cranes. And I said it almost the way I told you, Dennis, that it would seem like it would be stronger. He said, Fred, you got to quit saying that. So what did I say? It's not that it seems like it is. It is. Mm-hmm. This is how we hook our cranes together. And we put those pieces with these shackles. They better be strong or these things would collapse on us. So you're going to see in a few minutes the importance of having a shackle instead of a clevis. It's the world of difference here. And on the market today, you're seeing people coming up with new products that have completely eliminated all of the metal connections that we have. I've not tried any of these to know how effective. I mean, you can do your homework and see. So once I understand, am I big enough? How much weight am I doing? And am I going to hook up a chain, a cable, or a strap? The hardest thing, which there is no science, is where to hook this stuff up at. And it all depends if it's buried. It all depends on lots of different things. But, you know, lots of times we'll use these tow hooks. And you can see here that they pulled from these, and you can see that it actually broke them. On this particular example here, one's going to pull the other one out. It comes in, it goes out. And what I'm about to show you is not as bad as it seems. Of course, you and I aren't there to have that on our head, but the guy's head was down. And within a second that it broke, that clevis and everything came through the windshield and out within a second. And his head was down, and it just got him on the surface of his head. And as you know, if you cut something on your head, you bleed. Folks, if this man would have had his head up, he would not be with us today. Now, unfortunately, my camera didn't work on this one. It was the only one that I ever saw that somebody put this on their hitch. And my guess, it said, do not attach. They're telling you, don't tow with this. And my guess is they've been sued. Somebody towed, they had not been warned, and this thing here broke. I mean, that's the only reason it's there. And I've kept looking for better pictures, but it was the only one that I saw. Folks, these balls that we have and these hitches that we have typically are only rated for 3,500 pounds. The balls, maybe 5,000. Most of you don't spend a lot of time looking at these things. The hitches are 5,000 pounds. It's another talk. But boy, when you pull these things off, bad things happen. So you're going to see then the hookup and a driver who doesn't have a clue in terms of what he's supposed to be doing. The object is to get out, not go in. And so you can watch here. The lights come on. They heard something. And what you're going to look at the strap. You always got a comedian, right? It's not his truck. He ain't stuck. He's just there having a good time. I have another guy pushing over there. Not sure what he's going to do when the other guy's driving. Now watch that strap. He moved it. He pulled it. Now isn't that cool? I now have many other places that I can hook up to pull them out. I was limited. Now I don't. So this is why we often tell you, well, it's an art of where you hook up. You can do a lot of damage. It's also the reason why that we tell you not to pull people that you don't know out, that to make sure that you make sure they're comfortable, that they're not cold. There's things you can do without actually doing the pulling, because even if they tell you, don't worry about it. When you have this kind of damage as you're seeing here, got this guy back here. He's been watching too much rodeo, I think. He thinks his scrawny butt's gonna weigh that down. But you can see the damage here. I've seen where these clevises have went into cabs, these fancy sprayers, and have caused $20-something thousand worth of damage as it bounced around and destroyed things. It's an art, and I don't know what else to say. I'm sure if you're a commercial person and you know how to do this, and you've done a lot of them, you have your favorite places to hook up. But now, I've said a couple of things that I'm going to bring back in, one specifically. I want you to not to use a clevis. And I still call them screw clevis, and I shouldn't, but that's what I learned. I want you to use the one that you can screw in. That's the first take-home message. Can you do anything to protect the windshields? I'll show you that. Are there any sharp edges? And you have something you can put over the middle. People have laughed, and I'm thinking, well, you know what? This is not so bad, is it? Take your toolbox lid and put it up against that window. It might just keep it from going through the windshield. Okay? I don't have a lot of choices here, but that was my best example.
A farm worker was killed this weekend at a freak accident at a Middletown farm. Officials say a tractor was attempting to tow
He's
a
not
tractor
even
trailer
stuck.
that was fully loaded with corn out of a muddy field Saturday morning when the tow strap broke. The tow hook broke loose and went through the driver's side windshield of the tractor trailer, striking 66-year-old George Lynham Jr. in the upper torso. He was rushed to Christiana Hospital where he was pronounced dead. For Delaware Online, I'm Damian Giletto.
Again, not even a what you and I would call bad. I brought that up because lots of times this stuff breaks, especially the straps. And I was showing you earlier on where that guy was just kind of drove into the mud hole, and they pulled him out, and that strap was along the bumper. Folks, if I could just give me 1 minute. When you hook up and you pull it kind of tight, go back there and make sure that strap is not on something that can be cut, because when you put that kind of pressure on some of these bumpers or screws or bolts or whatever you want, those things can actually cut it just like you would a pair of scissors. So stop, go and look. And then the last one is, and my only evidence of this is what I practiced. I've never not had a problem, but what people have told me over and over and over. And again, that's experience. I don't have any science to prove anything. It just makes sense. So if you're ever stuck, put something over the middle. It can be floor mats. It could be boots. It can be a jacket. It could be anything over the middle. And the idea would be that if thing ever breaks, that what's in the middle is going to drag it down and force that down into the back of a Bobcat or the back of a truck. And, I don't know how many people we still have out there on this presentation, but, if any of you have experienced that, I would love to hear your story about what you used and how that worked. We got a lot of growers that put a tire in the middle of it. Obviously, you're at your own place and you have that choice. We also have things that you can buy, and this is what they look like. These are for sometimes, the ones I bought, with this one here is one I bought for a fire department. And you would be surprised how lightweight that is, relatively speaking, for what it's going to be used. It doesn't take much weight to knock that down. So Valor, if anybody has volunteered to tell me their story, that would be great, or in the chat about putting something over the middle. So for me is not to use a clevis, not to jerk on stuff, put something over the middle. When you start to pull, make sure there's nothing there that's going to cut that strap. And if you can protect the windshield, that much more power to you. So here is tow, stuck, the danger, and now the clear zone. Folks, I don't know what to tell you, but you get stuck, everybody's brother wants to be there. I mean, you can get actually an extension. I get better crowds getting stuck than I do just giving talks, but they all want to be there. They just, I don't know what it is about that. Look at these boys on the right, a couple of those are my friends, and oh yeah, man, they're really proud. They got stuck, and this is how people get hurt badly when things break. You can't predict how things are going to break or even when.
Just a good old boy.
That's still good music, ain't it?
Never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw.
So you can see this truck is buried. Whatever you think the weight is, multiply it That's how much you're trying to pull. I don't know where he got this rope. My guess is it's thrown away from a barge.
He's got a solid out, so I couldn't
I got it.
like that.
Yeah, some bad words in here too. I've got to assume he got it off of a barge. We had one 2 years ago where a father was killed with the rope. The rope came back and hit him in the chest and killed him. It's just the power. So he's going to have this. I think they're in the same county. I'm not sure, but you can see he's got it hooked up to his bumper because it's an easy place. Just put it over the ball. He gets out and takes him a sip of something. This other guy on the left-hand side is trying to tell him what he should do, and then the guy must have told him get out of here his own way. They're going to go over to the right. Nobody's going to get hurt, but I want to show you how quick things can fall apart. I give this guy credit. Whatever he was drinking, it must have numbed his mind because he is just gone. And look how quickly that busted rope came back. And it went to the right where all the people were at. I don't know where, the movie doesn't show us. Not only did it come back, it actually hit tore off the hitch, showing you the kind of power that it has. Does it have a guarantee? Yeah. Well, there it is. We'll just weld it back on, not to worry. Okay. So you got to get people away. And you know, there's a photographer here shooting this picture. I don't see the photographer, but what I do see is their hand. As they get hit, you can see the shadow of the hand. Where he or she's grabbing for air because they were hit. It was interesting. I got a set of photographs last year from a farmer who had his sprayer stuck. Had a bunch of his help trying to dig him out. They got another piece of equipment to pull them out. And when they're doing the pulling, they're all gone. You don't see anybody because they went back to the car behind the doors in the event that something broke. And that's what we're talking about, trying to protect ourselves. So folks, that's it in a nutshell. A lot of it is common sense. So here's some boys, they're drunk and they're having a good time. Got their trucks modified to ride in the back on the seats there. What I want you to do is to look right there as this is rolling on the hood. I don't need this guy. This guy never served any purpose, though we still do it. What is it, a race? Well, it is a race, and that's the first mistake. We're going to jerk on it. And you saw where it came back across. Now, this guy's a movie star, right? He's drunk. He just doesn't realize how close he was to not being with us anymore. That hook went to a little bit more power. And oh man, yeah, look, this is cool, right? And then I like this guy. I don't know what he's thinking. Oh, he's not. He says, is that a hole? Does it go through? Can I cut my dadgum finger off by going through it? Folks, a lot of when we do these programs, and like I say, live, and we talk about stories, you will hear some of the stupid things people do and the consequences and the luck involved. And we got to quit depending on luck because the luck may run out on you the next time around. So I gave you a couple of tips from not using a clevis, putting something over the middle, make sure it's not cut, understanding, a little bit about what you're doing. But if you have the means, because these are expensive, you can buy recovery equipment. And so, Dennis, do you know what the weight of one of the tractors, or what's the heaviest thing you got there?
Probably the combine.
And how much is it?
You know, I don't know, Fred. I'd say, I mean, 15, 20,000 pound, I'd say, maybe more. I don't know.
So let's for sake of argument, let's just say 20 because I don't know.
Yeah.
So if that's the heaviest thing we have, right? Let's say it's 20.
Well, I guess I'd take that back. If we have a loaded truck, it would be heavier than that, 40, 45, 50 if it was loaded.
Let's just say 50. So, yeah, so now it's 50,000 pounds. If you're going to buy one of these, that's 50,000 pounds. Stuck in the mud would be 100,000 pounds, right? Double it up.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is to buy a strap that could pull 100,000. Because if I can use that strap to pull out that truck that's stuck, then that means, Dennis, I could use that strap for everything else. I don't need multiple straps. And if you notice on here, it's coming with the kinds of attachments that we like, where they screw in that pin. The only problem with these is that when dirt and stuff gets in those fibers, it eats those fibers. So after you've pulled with something, somebody's got to get some water and try to rinse some of that soap off, which would be with any strap. So that is actually a great thing that I could do to be able to pull things out safely. And when you're running a pool, nothing bad's going to happen. Sometimes you just got to decide that I can't do this. And I'm going to ask you, the folks looking at this, do you think this guy could ever pull anything out that's got weight on it? Watch what he's doing. He can do this all day long, and nothing's going to happen because he's got no traction, if that's the right word, on the tires of the truck. All he's doing is spinning. Now, did you see it move in the back? That's our kiss of death. When I feel something moving or see it, then it tells me back up and take it home. And you'll notice that over here he's got a young fellow. I don't know if that's his son, a worker. And he's still backing up, trying to get traction and trying to ram it home. And it broke. Again, nothing bad happened. This young man here could have been in bad shape. Sometimes you just have to admit that that spot or that vehicle is not going to pull it out. And, you know, because sometimes you make some bad decisions, bad things happen. Like in this guy here, shouldn't he be wearing safety glasses and a helmet? But I guess he has other issues at hand. But all right, we're almost done here, just about here. So, I guess my whole bottom line to all of this is we've got this publication. It's number 98, PPP 98. There it is. I would be happy to send you a copy if you're interested. I would be happy to send you the website if you'd rather have it on the web. No cost to either. Just let Valerie know either in the chat or an email later, or send me Fred Whitford, WHITFORD, Purdue. Send me an email, and it's pretty easy. fwhitford@purdue.edu, and I'll also send that to you. So I hope, Valerie, that we had a couple of take-home messages in line with the sulfur talk and in line with the application. The rain fastness was one that was interesting to me, and the resistance. Hopefully there's a couple of safety tips here that's as equal as in the production side. So Valerie, I will stop there.